And we've been friends for a long time. I don't think either of us want to say how long, but I think it's for in the early part of your book series before Dan Brown hit the market. So you can find out when Dan Brown published his first book, After Deception, and then you can see. But let me just give the audience a quick overview. Dan's bio is way too long to read, so I've sort of summarized it. In 2002, Dan, you founded Millenium Tech Value Partners. And if you guys don't know, Millenium is the VC behind Facebook, Twitter, Alibaba, so it's worked out pretty well. And before that, you were at Blackstone as an advisor, working with leading CEOs of major global corporations like Sony, Toyota, Microsoft, and Sun, many of the companies that are participating in autonomous vehicles today. And you sit on many public boards and private companies, but what is really interesting, and in your free time, you've had time to write all these books. You have 14 best-selling, New York Times best-selling books that go from technology to Dan Brown's universe to The Secrets of 24, which is, I haven't gotten that one, I had to visit your office. I wanted to get that before they canceled the show. But and then you also have been a fellow at the World Economic Forum in Davos. So it's really amazing, and it's really a privilege to have you here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little set change here. We're going to move these chairs closer together, and here, why don't you come have a seat? But you were seeing what was happening in 1983, and which is amazing. So what attracted you to take that risk? If you turn off your mic, there's no feedback. What attracted you to make that risk, and what what was compelling about that investment? Who was it? I would like to know. And how did it work out, and what has motivated you to continue that way since 1983?
Well, I had two things sort of came together. One was a friend of mine in 1982 called me up and said, do you have 5 hours? I have to introduce you to a friend of mine, and you have to hear what he has to say. And I said, 5 hours? Well, that was back before we all lost our attention spans, but even then, somebody saying, do you have 5 spare hours was a big ask. I said, okay, if you insist. He brought this guy over, and he sat down at my house, and it ended up taking 7 hours, and he explained what was then ARPANET to me. I had no engineering background. I was a journalist at the time. But the more this guy talked, the more I got the picture that this was going to change everybody's life. And this was the beginnings of strategies and their product positioning and their communications, and decided that, being a freelance journalist was really a wonderful career, and I had enjoyed it a lot, but it really wasn't where the big dollars were, and maybe becoming a consultant to some of these emerging companies would be an interesting thing to do. So we found a company that was in need of some interesting product positioning services and some communication services that was Sun Microsystems. And they had a very interesting problem that they considered themselves the open systems company, and they were competing against a much larger, better capitalized company then called Apollo Systems, that was a proprietary systems company. And Sun had been recently founded, and Scott McNealy had become the CEO, and he was actually a couple of years younger than me, and Vinod Khosla, later of Kleiner Perkins and Khosla Ventures, and Bill Joy, the father of Unix, and Andy Bechtolsheim had come together to start Sun, and they had made their first Sun workstation out of spare parts, basically, and they were going for the open systems approach. So we helped them define their company as the Maverick, the upstart. This is 50 years away, 100 years away, in my opinion.
Mike Bloomberg said last year that rather than sending your kids to Harvard Business School, you should send them to become plumbers, because that is a skill that would be more difficult in a trade. And as you said, there's Poet AIs, Aaron Cohen's work in the 1980s, and there's a whole Google Brain and painting pictures. Seeing a work of art and then seeing a computer-generated work of art, are you able to tell the difference? And so, if you want to do art, but now the computers are taking your profession. So, but this is going down a very negative, dark path here. So I'm going to bring it back because this is. I think personally, I do have some optimism that we don't know what jobs will be created, and what fields will be created, and what shifts will be created, and what have you. But there is.
Let me just say, I'm optimistic about the future, but my optimism goes in a couple of directions. One, I think, for the people in this room, our ability to do incredible things in the next 25 years is almost unlimited. I'm looking forward to the next couple of decades, the experiences I'm going to have, the things I'm going to be able to do, the creative things I'm going to be able to do. Believe me, I don't want to drive my car from Connecticut into New York City. I love to, sit in my proverbial back seat and do anything but, I want to write my AI poetry while my AI sensors figure out what's going on the road. So I think there's going to be incredible liberating for many, many people.
A few years ago, like every other booth was a drone, company. They all went out of business. TGI just ate their lunch. And then last year, every other booth was sort of like a VR headset. I think that this year, there'll be a lot of trends to be taken. One of them, just like last year, autonomous driving track at North Hall. You're an investor in Blackmore, a LiDAR company, and LiDAR and sort of navigation and SLAM technology is really important for autonomous driving and transportation. When looking into CES, I don't know if you see it as a bellwether or you see it as a trendsetter. What themes you think are going to be like hot right now? What are the opportunities that you're looking at? Give us a window into your view from NBC. Short term, when everyone is still employed.
I think, I don't know about the shows in particular, and I don't go to them, so I can't make too many predictions about that. But in the drone space, I think the applications have been very focused on a handful of important but not very robust applications. We've seen a lot of wedding photography by drones and interesting aerial photography. We're really getting to the point where drones can start to be extraordinarily useful in terms of managing pipelines and telecommunications infrastructure.
Like your portfolio company,
Precision Hawk, insurance, doing insurance inspections, in the military, doing surveillance of all kinds, doing troop movements. By the way, troops, of course, in the future are all going to be robotic and cyber. big standing armies like the Middle Ages.
That opens up another Pandora box of ethical consideration for offensive guns.
We won't get into that tonight. But short term, the advances in mapping, in navigation, in you mentioned moving towards level 5 on automated AV technology. The motion to get there is very swift. When all that stuff can actually be regular, daily roadworthy is another question. But the race is on. The dollars are being spent. The teams are there. The engineering is there, and it's going to start to happen very, very fast. And we're going to be seeing a lot of that stuff. The integration, of the human voice with Google Home or Alexa or whatever it is, and the more applications that's going to achieve, including in the car and in other vehicles, other kinds of vehicles, that this is so expansive, and because automobiles are such a huge industry, vehicles, trucks, we have to keep remembering that this is about trucks and buses and other kinds of vehicles, not just about cars. And that trucks may even happen faster than cars for many reasons. That these are such huge platforms, so consumptive of so many kinds of technology, that this is going to drive the next generation of technology, broadly speaking, in the way that boxes we used to call computers, drove the last 40 years of technology development. Now we're putting all this stuff on mobile platforms and designing for the specs of being able to have to put this stuff into mobile platforms that are dodging all sorts of obstacles and changing conditions. And that's the next revolution. But it's also got to be able to tell you, you've got to be able to play the music you want. I've got to deliver you to the restaurant you want to be at, and to deliver the virtual reality experience in the backseat to your kids, and be able to trade the stocks with cryptocurrencies that you want to trade, and it's got to be able to do all that stuff. I coined an acronym today that the cars are going to have to be linked up to the BBC, the Bitcoin, blockchain, crypto. So you're not only going to have to be able to get the news from the BBC in your car, you're going to have to be fully BBC equipped for Bitcoin, blockchain, crypto.